Hey everybody, today we are going to be working on an adaptive evens and odds game. So evens and odds is a game similar to rock, paper, scissors where each person hides their hand and then at the count of three they show a certain number of fingers on one hand, right? So that could be anywhere from 1 to 5. Right? So each person does that. Now, before the game starts, one of the players is chosen to be even and the other one is odd. And then what happens is you add up the total sum of all fingers, and then if it's even, then the even player wins. If it's odd, then the odd player wins. All right, so for instance, if you have player one and they are even, and they show one finger, and then player two, who's odd, shows three fingers, then the sum is 4, and then the even player would win. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to make a game that simulates this. We're going to simplify it so that the player is always even, and then the computer will adapt its responses so that it's more likely to pick even or odd depending on what the player does. Now, this is very similar to the adaptive rock, paper, scissors game that we have previously done, so you can check out that video if you're interested, but it's going to use a very similar concept. So let's get started. Now, before I begin, I should say that there are a lot of different ways to go about this, and so if you don't like the strategy I used, well, that's okay. But you can put it in the comment. Let me know if you think there's a better way to do it. But I think the way I'm going to do it is actually, pretty good. All right, so let's start off pretty simply here with. I always like to start off with a title. Welcome to Evens and Odds. All right, so something like this, and then I'll put out. Just underline here, something like that. Okay, and then I will ask them. I'll prompt the player. Well, I'll tell the person that they are playing evens. Okay, so we're saying, let's see, you are the evens player. All right, and then we'll do a small print line. Please choose a number from 1 to 5. All right, great. And I want this to be on the same line, so we'll just use a print here. All right, so what we're going to need is some variables. So we're going to start off with a scanner. Input is equal to new scanner using system.in. Okay. And we'll call it, I guess, player's number. Okay, so that's going to have to be an integer. And we're going to import the scanner. Okay, so we got scanner input is equal to new scanner, player's number is equal to 0 to start, and then we're going to say player's number is equal to input dot next. Now I know you can actually just create this on the same line, but for new programmers this is actually a little bit difficult, like when you're doing things all on one line. So I sometimes like to split up the variable creation with the assignment as we're doing here. Okay, so anyways, player's number is equal to input.nextInt, and let's just echo this back. So, and we'll just say player's number. All right, let's just test it out and see if it looks okay. Okay, you are the evens player. Please choose a number of 1 to 5. 3, 3. Great, looks good. Now this is not error trapped. We can do that later if we want. So let's put it a to do here. Error trap needed. Okay, great. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start off a 50-50 threshold to say that the player's going to, whether the player chooses evens or odds, it's just 50-50. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll call that the even threshold. So the even threshold we're going to set at 50%. Right, that's where we're going to start at. And then we need to have a way to have the computer generate a number from that's going to be either even or odd. All right, so at first it's just 50-50. It just depends on what the players wanted to do. Okay, so it's just going to depend. It's not actually going to depend on what the player has done. It's just straight up even odds. Okay, so what we'll do here is we're going to generate a random number. Okay, so we will say int even or odd is equal to 0. Okay, and so what we're going to say is even or odd. This is going to determine whether or not the computer chooses even or odd. Okay, so even or odd is equal to int math.random times 100 and then plus 1. All right, so that's going to make a number from 1 to 100. And we will say if even or odd is less than 50, or the threshold, or even threshold, I guess. If it's less than the even threshold, then that means we are going to choose an even number, right? So in order to do that, we're going to have to make another variable for the player's number, or computer's number. All right, so if that's the case, then what we're going to do now, how do you make that happen? Well, some people will do a whole bunch, a series of if statements, but the way that I'm going to do it is a little bit different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say while, okay, so while, let's see, we're going to generate a number from 1 to 5. Okay, so while, we need some scope brackets here, I believe. Okay, actually, we'll need a do while. That's okay. So do while. Okay, so we're going to generate the computer's number here. Okay, so if we're in this, if we're below the threshold for even, then we are going to say that we want to make an even number. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to say computer's number is equal to int. Actually, let's just copy this here. Okay, except this will be a 5. So this is going to make a number from 1 to 5, right? And we will do this while the computer's number is computer's number modulus 2 is not equal to, or we'll say is equal to 1. All right, so whenever you take a number modulus 2, you're checking to see when you divide it by 2 if it's going to give you a remainder of 0. If it gives you a remainder of 0, that means it's an even number. So for us, what's happening here is we're going to check, does the computer's number modulus 2 equal 1, meaning is it odd? If it is odd, then we just regenerate it, okay? And because there's only 5 possibilities, this isn't going to get probably stuck into like a massive loop where, you're looking at, running for an exorbitant amount of time just to get an even or an odd number. Okay, and that's pretty much that. Okay, so we have if even or odd is below the even threshold, we're going to choose an even number. If that's the case, we don't need the scope brackets because it's just one command. All right, so then do while. Okay, else, okay, we're just going to copy this. This means we want to generate, and this means we want to generate an odd number. So we're going to do the exact same thing. Just repeat keep regenerating the number until as long as it's even. So if it's even, we regenerate, and so once it becomes odd, then we will generate an odd number. Right? So let's go to show out what the computer chose. So we'll say system.println. The computer chose, and then plus computer's number. All right, so the computer's number. Let's just test this out now and just see if it's working. So I'm going to choose 3. Computer chose 4. All right, so that's a total of 7. All right, let's see, it chose. I chose 2 again. Computer chose 5. All right, so I mean, it seems like it's working. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to determine who won. All right, so we're going to say if the computer's number plus the player's number, and we'll need to use in parentheses. Okay, modulus 2 is equal to 0. That means that the sum is even. Then we're going to say the player won. So you win. All right, and then we will make some variables for winning and losing. So we'll say wins is equal to 0. Losses is equal to 0. All right, so you win, and then wins plus plus. All right, now if you did not win, then we're going to actually just say a similar thing. So you lose, and then losses plus plus. All right, so we can count how many wins there are and how many losses there are. Let's try it out. Okay, so I guess 4, you chose 1. The computer chose 1, so that's odds. Yep, 4 plus 1 is 5. I guess we could probably actually show the sum in case people are just bad at math. The sum was plus computer's number plus player's number. Okay, so if I choose 1, okay, computer chose 2, the sum was 21. That is not correct. All right. Oh, I see. What's happened here is that the player chose 1, or we chose 1, and the computer chose 2. So it's just showing a 2 and a 1, right? So we need to actually just combine them there. Okay, so 2. Yeah, okay, so what happened was it's like saying show a 2 and then show a 1. It doesn't mean to like add them if you don't have the parentheses here. So what we have is choose a number. We chose 2, the computer chose 5, the sum is 7, you lose. All right, because the computer is odds. Okay, now after the game, the computer is going to adapt. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say if the player's number modulus 2 was equal to 0, okay, meaning that it was an odd number. Okay, what we want to do is we want to, or it was an even number, so modulus 2 equals 0 means even number. That means we want it more likely that the computer will choose an odd number. Okay, so that means that the player chose an even number. We want to choose odd numbers to match up so that it will be an odd number more often. Now, remember the threshold is what's the number has to come under in order to choose even. So what we're going to do is we're going to lower that threshold. So we'll say evens threshold is minus equals 2. Okay, so we're going to take away 2%. Now, you don't have to have an odd threshold because we're generating a number from 1 to 100. So if the even threshold is at 50 and you take away 2, it's going to go to 48, and then the other side will automatically go to 52 anyways. Okay, now else what we'll do is we'll say even threshold plus equals 2. All right, to push it the other way. So if the computer or if the player chose an odd number, then it's more likely that we will choose even numbers to match up, so we'll get an even number or an odd numbered result. Okay, I believe that's it. Now, in order for this to work, though, because right now it only does 1 round, we need to actually loop this. Okay, so we're going to put this whole thing into a do while. Okay, and in the problem that I gave, what we did is we actually had over 20 rounds. Okay, so I'm going to say while rounds is less than 20. Okay, so we're going to make a variable here. So rounds is equal to 0. And at the beginning, we'll just say rounds plus plus. So we'll add 1 to the rounds. And hey, why not? Let's display here some data here. So we're going to say round plus rounds. All right, then we'll go plus space wins plus wins plus losses plus losses. All right, and let's see how that looks. It's not great, but it'll do. Let's try it like that. Okay, and then just get another one of these lines, put it underneath. Okay, so we have, all right, so we have the evens players. We're going to choose 2. Computer chose 4. The sum was 6. We won. Okay, so we got 1 wins. Now I'm going to choose even all the time. All right, so 2 again. Okay, so we lost. Okay, 2. We won. 2. We won. Okay, so we should start losing more often as we go. All right, so we lose, we win. Now, it's not that we're going to lose all the time because the computer still has a chance of choosing an even number. It's just more likely to do this over time. Now, yes, as you can see, like at first it was kind of 50-50, and towards the end it's like lose, 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 lose. So we're going to start losing all the time, especially because I chose this over 20 rounds. I chose a 2 over 20 rounds. It goes up by 2% every time. So at the end, it's going to be a maximum of like 90% of the chance, 90% chance it will choose the one that will make you lose. All right. So if you just choose the same or even one all the time and any even number all the time, eventually you'll just lose at like 90% or towards the end. All right. That doesn't mean you can't ever win. It's just that the computer will rapidly adapt to you. All right. And so you can see in this case, the computer won 11-8, and that's the end. All right. So what we can do, one last thing is we can just say, if at the end, we can say if, so when we're done, we just say something like game over. Okay, so small print line, we do want to say you win. You won the match, okay? Or you lost the match. So if wins is greater than losses, then you won the match. Okay, else if wins is equal to losses. All right, so if wins is equal to losses, then we're going to say something like, it was a tie. All right, and then finally, we're going to have else you lost the match. All right, and that I believe is it, except for the error trap that we had to do there. I'm just going to leave that out. Maybe I'll make it after the video here. Like I'll just add it in. If you can stop watching now, I guess, if you don't want to see the error trap. But that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions, throw it into the comment section. Otherwise, I hope this was informative to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video. Okay, so as promised, I'm going to come back here and just finish off this error trap for those of you guys that may want to see it. Right, so an error trap basically should just enclose this one statement here. Sometimes people build in all the code like within it, and in general, I don't feel like you should do that because it mixes up code and it doesn't compartmentalize it very well, and then it just leads to a lot of confusion in how the code runs. So we're just going to set up something simple here. So we're going to say Boolean input success is equal to true. Okay, so we're going to assume that our input here is true. Okay, so we will say input success. Well, let's try this. So what we're going to do is we're going to say try. Right, so we're going to try this. Okay, and then we are going to catch any errors. So we're going to catch just exceptions, any exception E. That has to be a capital E exception. Okay, so catch exception E. All right, so what's going to happen here is if we have something go wrong, all right, then what we're going to do is we're going to say input success is equal to false. Okay, so we're going to set the input success equal to false. Now there's going to be bad data still stuck in the data stream, so what we need to do is we need to get it out. So we're just going to say string whatever garbage is equal to let's see, input dot next. So we're just going to take it out there, and then that should be it. And we'll just say while input success is equal to false. Now you could say input success is equal to false, but a better way to say it that I like more is just while not input success. All right, so then what we're going to do here is, now if their input is unsuccessful the first time, when it comes back around to the top of the loop, the input success will still be false. So what we have to do is we have to say input success is equal to true, right? And to reset it, that flag, and then just be able to come through. The last thing is, while I'm at it, I might as well put an if statement here. So I'll say if input success is true. Now I could say equals true, but you can just say input success. And all right, so I'm only going to check this if the input is success. So if input success is true. Okay, so I'm going to say input success is true, and the player's number is less than 1, or the player's number is greater than 5, okay, meaning that they have entered an invalid number, then we will set the input success also to be false. All right, and that should pretty much cover it. All right, let's test it out, just see how it goes. All right, so if I enter a 6, okay, it won't accept it. A 0, garbage, doesn't accept it. Okay, so I enter a 3, computer chose 1, sum was 4, you win, great. Okay, so if I choose 3 again, you lose, win. Okay, so seems to be working. Okay, so overall, looks like it's working. Then we just close up these big gaps here. All right, and there we go. That's the whole program. Anyways, hopefully that is just a quick refresher on to how to do error traps. If you do have any other questions, leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you next video.